Welcome back to another Kerbal Space Program video, sponsored by Incogni, more on them later, and today I'm continuing my prequel of sorts series of missions leading up to the construction of our Grand Minmus colony. Last week we experimented with dealing with isolation and working in harsh environments by constructing a grand Arctic ice shelf base on Kerbin so that we could learn how well a crew could cope with living and working aboard a hypothetical extraterrestrial surface base. And now it's time to put that data to the test as we commence our first ever surface-based mission, sending a crew of 3 crackpot Kerbinauts to the surface of the Mun, conduct a lengthy science mission there, and then return home on the rocket that took them there. Now, so far, I've mainly been using Matea's Stocker-like station parts mod for building stations and surface bases, but this week I thought I'd give Planetside Exploration Technologies by Benji10 a spin. This is an amazing mod that adds a ton of surface-based specific parts, including wind turbines, rover parts that allow rovers to easily dock directly to bases, big solar panels, and a whole lot more. What I love about this mod is that your bases can be more horizontally laid out, rather than needing to be more vertical like with Stocker-like station parts. So that's what we're going to be using today. As you can see, construction of the Mun base is well underway. I decided to keep things simple and have it launch as one monolithic block just to keep the video duration bearable, and then we'll build and launch a separate rocket to get the crew there. Now, the only parts mod currently installed is the Planetside Exploration Technologies mod. The Stocker-like station parts mod was uninstalled just for the construction of this, so that you don't get too confused about which parts are new, looking at that, the parts list on the left there. Now, this base is not going to be an exhaustive build showcasing every single component on offer here. It's just going to be a small base that shows what I think are the best parts, and obviously things like, wind turbines, we don't need them because the Mun doesn't have an atmosphere. But yeah, to highlight what I said regarding this base's simplicity, the main structure is now complete. We have a central command unit, on top of which are, in fact, 2 more modules. A big habitat module with 3 beds for 3 Kerbals, and above that, a currently deflated inflatable habitat module, also containing 3 beds, meaning that we have a crew capacity for 6 Kerbals here, or more if they rotate their sleep patterns. But this is a Pathfinder mission. We don't know if the inflatable part will actually work properly, so we're only going to send 3 Kerbals out on this mission so that they're not left without a bed if, the inflatable module doesn't work as intended. There are 2 arms either side of the command unit containing a hydroponics garden, laboratory and logistics modules, as well as 2 small hab modules which I'm having serve as airlocks connecting to the 2 exterior hatches which have these cute little fold-out staircases. Kind of a blink and you miss it moment just then, but you might have spotted I added 2 structural beams to the engine there. That's because this whole thing is going to land upright on the Mun, Wolfhound engine at the bottom, and the girders there will act as a brief landing base. The whole thing is then designed to basically fall over into its landed position, and in order to ensure that this happens slowly and, controlled, there are 2 monopropellant puff engines on the sides of the command module. A solution I think worked out pretty well, actually. I did consider some kind of sky crane setup for landing the base horizontally, but I think this solution is simpler and easier, even if it might not be quite as realistic. And now the complicated part of the build is over, it's time to construct the less complicated aspect of this vehicle, and that is the big, dumb rocket that's going to get us, from Kerbin to the Mun, I guess. But that's it, they're pretty much all ready to go, so let's count down to launch. 5, 4, 3. 3 is actually my favourite number on the countdown, because 3 rhymes with Incogni, the powerhouse that's putting you back in control of your online life by keeping your personal data safe from those pesky data brokers and trackers who have sponsored today's video. We live in a world where our online information has a life of its own, and Incogni is here to rein it in, negotiating with data brokers to give them the boot and ensuring that your personal information stays where it belongs, with you. And this process is completely hassle-free. Incogni automatically seeks out and wipes your data from brokers across the web, reaching out to them on your behalf. Imagine your data being tossed around like a hot potato between these collectors. Some may use it for nefarious purposes, which can result in you having denied bank loans, insurance rates hiked, and you could even have your identity stolen. According to the Identity Theft Resource Centre's 2022 Annual Data Breach Report, the number of victims has gone up by almost 41.5% from the previous year. Incogni's annual subscription is something that I actually use, and it's brilliant. If you sign up, Incogni will send repeated removal requests for as long as you're signed up, ensuring that your data is not only removed, but it stays removed. It's time to take control of your privacy. Join me and countless others who are protected by Incogni, and the first 100 of you to use my code MATTLOWNE will get an incredible 60% off Incogni's services. So what are you waiting for? Click the link below today. And there we are airborne, and I must say it is an absolutely beautiful day for a launch, made even more beautiful thanks to all the amazing visual mods we have installed, which I've kind of talked about quite a lot at this point, so I'm going to just list them over and over again, but yeah, there we are, flying through the air with our kind of a false start. Looking at the screen, I forgot about this. I, as a seasoned player of Kerbal Space Program, for some reason forgot to turn on SAS upon liftoff, which is why the rocket started wobbling a bit out of control. But we are back on track, so all was okay. Yeah, despite the fact that we've got a very, very large payload, I think this rocket is fairly reasonably, realistically proportioned. Like, okay, the fairing is very, very tall, but you know, aside from that, I think this looks pretty good as we, well, I guess embark on our grand journey to the surface of the Mun. Now, I probably should mention why we're going to the Mun when this is all in preparation for going to Minmus, right? Well, in the canon, I messed up, guys. I'm really sorry. I did this series completely in the wrong order. Where I was like, let's establish a big Minmus colony. So I set out putting this big space station, big fuel refinery, and I was like, hang on, this is like a brand new space program in like the canon of this series. Surely they wouldn't just do that immediately without doing anything else first, like their first ever space flight. So now I'm in the process of backpedaling and like rewriting history. So then we did the Arctic base. Like, this was actually the first mission, and then we built a space station in low Kerbin orbit rather than high Minmus orbit as like the second thing, and now we're doing the surface base mission. So yes, I decided the Mun would be a good place for an experimental first extraterrestrial surface base because it's closer than Minmus. So if there is an emergency, the crew can return home much quicker than they would be able to if they're on the surface of Minmus. And that's it, really. That was the only real reason. I mean, the main reason, right, is because if I sent this base to Minmus as a practice for the Minmus base, then the next video is just going to be the same video, right? It's going to be building another Minmus base. So this kind of varies things up a little bit, right? We're doing a Mun base now, and then later on we'll do a Minmus base, and then, well, it's time to go interplanetary. Maybe we go to Juna as our destination. Maybe we do, what is it, Life on Lathe? Are we on Series 3 at this point? Or Series 4? I can't remember. Or, and this is the direction I'm actually leaning towards, to be honest, guys. I would value your feedback in the comments below. I was thinking of doing Expedition Eve, my series, which, can you believe it, came out 8 years ago, if you're watching this in 2024. I think it came out in 2016. I think it might have straddled 2016 and 2017, now I think about it. I can't really remember. It was so long ago. I thought I'd do that again, but rather than make it like a film with like music and all that, I would do it like a playthrough, like a series of missions where I commentate. Well, basically what I'm doing now, right? So there'll be a video in which we go and establish a space station in orbit around Eve, establish a surface base, and then do lots of like rover expeditions, go and explore that legendary cave that was in Expedition Eve, even though that cave was actually just Tylo and I just changed the color grading to make it look like it was on Eve. I don't know if that's the first time I've ever mentioned that's how I did the Eve cave in Expedition Eve. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it before. And what else even happened? And then it kind of went a little bit weird and went into parallel universes, and I don't know how I can really do that in the form of a Let's Play video like this. But, you know, I might be able to think of something, not sure. And then just at the end of the day, return from the surface of Eve. Oh, and there was a Gilly mission as part of Expedition Eve's plotline as well. So you can go and visit Gilly, which is, if you don't know, Eve's moon. I forgot the word for a second there. But speaking of moon, here we are in orbit of Kerbin's closest moon, Mun. No, it's not pronounced moon. Everyone think, oh, it's actually pronounced moon because of the umlaut, but the umlaut is not present anywhere in Kerbal Space Program 1 except in that moon or bust title screen. All the text files, like, you know, and gameplay, like heads-up display, it's always Mun, like M-U-N. So there you are. That's the petty hill that I'm choosing to die on. Hopefully, we don't die on this hill, crater side. Hopefully we survive. There's no life forms on board, right? So like there's no risk of being killed. Whatever. There's a hydroponics garden in fairness, so we don't want to kill the plants. Anyway, horrible segue aside, we are just touching down. I'm basically looking for a flat spot, and I reckoned the interior of that very large Mun crater, which you probably saw on the map screen, would make for a good flat area. One of the things I really liked about Kerbal Space Program 2 was that the terrain had lots more big flat vistas, so building surface bases on flat areas was much easier. I guess it was kind of to help facilitate building colonies with runways and roadways. Rip in peace, all potential for Kerbal Space Program 2. Kerbal Space Program 1 is kind of harder to build bases on the surfaces because the surfaces is much more uneven. There aren't really any flat places in a lot of places in Kerbal Space Program 1. But I felt like this little area right here looked okay. I had to do a slight adjustment to our landing trajectory at the very end because I realized we'd be coming down on some large boulders. I had to sort of steer this thing to a spot that didn't have any big boulders. And then my plan for it to fall over didn't really work that well at first. It just sort of stayed upright really nicely. But now we can use those little monopropellant engines to slowly lower ourselves down, touching down at less than 2 meters per second. Despite this, there was a bit of a bounce, which I'm going to attribute to the low surface gravity of the Mun. Now, we want to detach the engine because it just looks a bit ugly having it still attached like that. And we can have it destroy itself. It has a probe core, SAS unit, batteries, all that shebang, so we can steer it away and, crash it into the surface at high velocity to ensure it is destroyed and doesn't just clutter up the landscape of the surface base. I guess in reality it would make more sense to leave it attached so that there is a fuel supply so we can potentially do minor refueling operations for arriving spacecraft. Although that being said, there wasn't really that much fuel left in the tank, was there? Anyway, there is the surface base there. I cannot show you the inside because of course we do not have any Kerbals in there. And I have the mod free IVA installed, so the Kerbals I can not only show you the interior view, but I can have a Kerbal walk around. We can do a little live tour, I guess. The first thing I need to do is just shut down the monopropellant engines. I just fired them up just then, just to ensure that we don't have enough thrust-weight ratio to accidentally take off or destroy the base. Jebediah Kerman falls asleep at the wheel, accidentally puts his foot on the accelerator. I'm pretty sure this is how spacecraft are operated, right? And call the whole thing to flip out of control. Now, as you can see, we are not constructing a crewed vehicle. Why is that? Well, I realized that for a lot of the time on the surface of the Mun, the crew are not going to be able to have direct communication with the Kerbal Space Center. So I thought I'd just pop a small satellite into polar Mun orbit just to increase the amount of time that the crew will have a direct connection to the Kerbal Space Center. It won't be constant, but it will certainly be better than without this satellite. And there it is, lifting off the pad. It's a very, very not special rocket. It's almost like a bit of an early career, early science mode style rocket, right? With those kind of small fuel tanks and the good old faithful swivel engine. I feel like the swivel engine, everyone uses it. And then as soon as you unlock the other engines of that size, you never ever use it ever again. I think the last time I actually used the swivel engine, for a rocket, when I had all the engines available to me, the last time I actually specifically chose to use the swivel engine was, I think, for a Falcon 9 I should say a stock Falcon 9 recreation, because the swivel engine is not very powerful, and so to have 9 engines, you kind of want a low thrust weight ratio of the individual ones so that the rocket's not too overpowered, and the swivel fit that pretty well. But obviously that's not really a positive in the swivel engine's favor, because I just said, it was really weak, so it was perfect for what I wanted it to do. So yeah, it's luckily one of the few pieces, I think, that does end up being redundant in Kerbal Space Program, and is not as bad as the Reliant engine. The Reliant engine is pretty bad when you look at the statistics for it, although the swivel is not that much better. And there are the solar panels deploying for our satellite. So we currently have the Stereo stage attached, which is going to perform our Kerbal orbit circularization. It's also going to put us on a Mun collision course. Collision course? Why is that? I mean, you guys probably been watching this channel for a while now, and you know where this is going. We're going to put this on a collision course, then we're going to detach this to the Stereo stage, so the Stereo stage will, collide with the Mun, not leave debris in space. and our satellite will do a course correction burn so that it does not collide with the Mun. It will, in fact, be on a Mun flyby, but during that flyby we will perform a retrograde burn and capture and put ourselves into polar Mun orbit. Now, like I say, this is not going to enable constant connection to the Kerbal Space Center, but this satellite, coupled with the Minmus satellite network and, Kerbin itself, there are lots of ways in which the surface base can connect to the ComNet network and, remaining connection to the Kerbal Space Center. So though there will be some blackout periods, they will hopefully be fairly few and far between and shouldn't cause any sort of problems. And there we are, performing our, setting up our circularization burn, I should say. Now, we're in fairly high, we're aiming for fairly high polar orbit here. I'm actually going to make it a little bit higher. I circularized, and I was like, actually, we could probably raise our apogee and our perigee, I guess, a little bit. But there is the initial orbit I went with. I enabled the ComNet lines just to see kind of what our connection was like. So you can see whenever there's a green line connecting the surface base to either this orbiting satellite or to Kerbin or to Minmus, that means the base has a connection to the Kerbal Space Center. And as you can see, it intermittently cuts out. But generally speaking, for the majority of the time, the surface base has connection to the Kerbal Space Center. So I was pretty happy with this mission. I didn't even plan to do this. I was just setting everything up to this morning, and I was like, oh, maybe before I go ahead and fly the crew to the surface of the Mun, maybe I should establish some sort of relay network. I think in hindsight, I kind of regret not having a horizontal, wow, let me try that again, equatorial orbit satellite. I said horizontal because I was thinking polar orbit is like a vertical orbit, equatorial is horizontal. I don't question how my mind works sometimes. But I was thinking like maybe we have I said it again, an equatorial satellite and a polar orbit satellite in high orbits, respectively. That then does enable, again, it's not perfect, but it does largely enable a constant connection with the surface base. I'm pretty sure that's the network setup I went with when establishing the Minmus network. But hey, maybe this is a canon thing because this is technically a prequel. Even though the Minmus infrastructure is already built, we're going to pretend it isn't. And the Kerbals here, they learned, that having the polar satellite was really good for helping ensure that we have a more constant communication with Kerbin. But wouldn't it be better, guys, if perhaps there was a satellite in a horizontal orbit? And the Kerbals did not know what the engineer meant until they clarified that they meant equatorial. I've been doing this for like 9 years now, these commentaries. You wouldn't be able to tell, would you? Please subscribe and like the video. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I can't even do the thing where I stop the commentary and allow the roar of the engines to really, because the sound cut out. But I had the volume, like my volume was very low when I was going this because there were some people in my house downstairs. Okay, that's a really weird way of phrasing that. There were some people in my house. I had my washing machine. Basically, guys, we're now in off the rails land. I just talk about my life for a bit now. Our washing machine packed in. My washing machine, I bought it 5.5 years ago. It has a warranty of 5 years, so it broke basically less than a year after its warranty ran out, which was very annoying. It was a nice Samsung washing machine. We had a repairman come round who basically said, look, everything is broken, basically. I can fix this, but it's going to be barely cheaper than just buying a new washing machine. I recommend you just buy another washing machine. So I bought another washing machine. I bought a Bosch, and when I was filming this, it was delivered. I bought it from AO Appliances. Great company. Highly recommend. AO, if you want to sponsor my channel, I don't know why you would. There ain't much crossover between Kerbal Space Program gameplay and domestic appliance sales in the UK. But, just saying, the offer is there if you want to give me some money, I guess. You guys might recall the horror that was the debacle of me buying a new fridge. Gosh, was that like a year or 2 years ago from Currys, which is a big retail store in the UK? Oh, it was a nightmare. I arrived. When you buy a fridge, you can't turn it on right away. You have to let it stand for a few hours, let all the liquids settle. I don't really know how it works, but that's the rule with fridges. You don't turn them on. So they delivered it, took my old fridge away. I turned the new fridge on after a few hours. It didn't work. So I was like, well, luckily I bought this from Currys, a brick and mortar store. So I could just drive to the shop and, explain, hey, you delivered this, and done work. So I drove to the shop, explained it, and they said, we can't do anything until tomorrow because it still says out for delivery on our system. And I said, I appreciate that, but it's in my house. Like, it's here, I have it, and it doesn't work, and all my food is now going to go bad. I had to just accept that that was just, the cost of doing business, I guess. So the next day I went back, and then they said, oh, that particular model of fridge is only available from our online store. And I'm like, right, but your online store is still Curry's, right? So the contract I have is with you. So how are we going to resolve this? They said, well, you can't. We can't do it in the store. You got to contact our online division. So I said, well, how do I do that? And they said, you got to tweet us. And I said, you what, when? I was like, yes, you got to send us a message on Twitter. It was called Twitter. I'm not just dead naming it at the time, even though X was and still is a very stupid name. It was still Twitter at the time. And so I messaged them. It took me ages. I was sat in the shop tweet, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Can I speak to one of the management, please? Because this seems wrong that I have to tweet at you when I'm in your shop. And management came down and she said, yes, you have to tweet us or message us on Facebook. And I was like, there's not like a number that you could just call, like, I'm here in the shop, you're the manager. Can you phone someone in the... Oh, it was a nightmare. And then it took months to get it, and then we tried to get a refund on the fridge that didn't work and got taken away, and then they wouldn't refund us until eventually we just contacted our credit card company and said, look, we have to do a chargeback on this. And then we got a really shirty call or email, I don't remember the details now, from Curry saying, why are you trying to charge back? We're going to take you to court, all this. I was like, well, you haven't refunded us. And then they refunded. Oh, it was a nightmare. I don't know how well that story was articulated, to be honest. I was really just reliving a very traumatic part of my life, to be honest. And I know right now the world's smallest violin is playing, because if that's a traumatic part of your life, how privileged must your life be? And I get that. I think I'm just still baffled by the absurdity that I had to tweet the shop that I was in to return a fridge that was broken. Like, I wasn't trying to scam them. I was like, look, I just want to return it. I don't want, a replacement for a better model or whatever. Anyway, after all of that, I said, all right, now I've not got a fridge, we're going to buy another one from an online store, because I'm not buying from Curry's again. I'm going to buy it from AO Appliances, because they've got good reviews. And do you know what? They were brilliant. They delivered it, and I said to them, I know you're not supposed to turn fridges on for a while, but I want to make sure it works. They said, no. We will not leave unless we have confirmed your fridge is working. So they turned it on, they took a picture to confirm it was working, and then so now I buy everything from AO Appliances. Highly recommend. And that's why there were people in my house. Yes, we've come full circle to how this ridiculous analogy even started. Analogy, anecdote, story, completely meaningless drivel. Call it whatever you want, but that's how, there were people in my house. I had the volume down. That's how I didn't know there was sound for the launch of this rocket. And it took so long to tell that tale that the rocket's mission is done. We are now on the surface of the Mun. Yes, Jebediah Kerman makes one small waddle for Kerbal, one massive tumble for Kerbal kind, as he becomes the first Kerbal to set foot on the Mun. He's entered the surface base, but I cut away because I don't want to spoil the interior just yet. We're going to get Bill Kerman on board next. There we are. And now we have Bob Kerman to go. And I'm going to switch to live commentary now and give you guys the tour. Okay, so let's go. Actually, no, if we're doing the free IVA tour, let's do it properly. We've left our seat. Where's the hatch? There it is. Go EVA. There we are. So yes, I mentioned it earlier very briefly in case you missed it. I'm going to be using the mod free IVA to enhance our little tour of the surface base. So I guess we can do a quick exterior view. I can't remember if I talked about it at the time, but I did inflate that attic module just there. So we've got our two habitation modules. The one that's going to be used by our Kerbals is this lower one, and then the upper one is the experimental inflatable one. Oh, now, is Bob an engineer or a scientist? He's a scientist, so I don't know if he can do this, but let's have a go. We're going to see if we can deploy the antenna. Let's see. I need to decouple this thing first. Okay, I can't. But, what a neat idea, hey? We'll have to do that once we're inside the base. So, let's board now. So, the previous crew didn't close the airlocks. Let's pretend that didn't happen. So here we are in the airlock. Got some seats here, little table, a little fire extinguisher as well. I'll talk about that later. Let's close the airlock, like we should have done. And here we are. We're in, I believe this is the logistics module, I think. I should have checked this. Now, one thing I didn't talk about in my previous free IVA video is the fact that there's a lot of interactable objects in these modules. Like this, we've got a little dinosaur. We can actually Alt left click, and now we've got a little squeaky dinosaur. How cool is that? And that's what I'll talk about the fire extinguisher later, because you can pick up fire extinguishers. So here we are in the main command unit. These doors are hatches, but I purposefully blocked them off so we can't just EVA from here, because I liked the idea of having dedicated airlocks. Now, we'll talk about the upstairs in a second. I want to show you guys my favourite room. Well, first I will say a quick hello to our crewmates. Very happy to be stretching their legs after been sitting on board that cramped Apollo module. Oh, alright. Well, so I guess I need to have maybe a raster prop monitor installed. That's another mod I'm aware of. I haven't done it yet. So I love this module. How cool is this? It's a little hydroponics garden, but it like revolves. I didn't really have anything else to say. For those who don't know, hydroponics is basically, you know, growing plants in space. Really got that out right. Let's pick up this fire extinguisher. Now watch this. Hey! So we can actually use it to like Iron Man ourselves. Works really well in a low gravity environment like the Mun. Anyway, let's go. Feels like I'm playing Metroid right now with Samus's arm cannon there. Let's close this hatch. This. Oh no, this is the. Okay, the module I said was the logistics module earlier. That was the laboratory module. This is the logistics module. And over here we have another airlock from which we can EVA. We can make sure we can use this hatch. Okay, yes we can. There we are. So that's the arms of the base. That's that little bit of the tour. Let's just get rid of this. Let's ascend. Now, these modules aren't just things that the mod maker just came up with. They are based on NASA's. I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it on screen, the actual proper name, because I've forgotten now. But basically, the NASA concept was very similar to this. They have these big sort of hub modules. And then the center, although there's some verticality here, which I said I kind of wanted to avoid, the NASA concept had like lifts, like an elevator, to take crew up and down. I'm guessing logistically you can't do that in Kerbal Space Programs. That's why it's a ladder. And the NASA mock-up was a ladder as well, but it was also an elevator. So pretend that there's an elevator in the center, I guess, if we're being true to the NASA concept. So here's the habitation module with some lovely window views of the parked lander over there. And of course, our three little bed. Oh, isn't that so cute? With a little bed sheet with stars on it. We've got some little chairs just here. Another fire extinguisher. Can't have too many of them. And some sample cases, I think. Don't really have much of an insight. Now let's have a look at the inflatable modules. Isn't this cool? But this is essentially exactly the same module as before, with slightly less stuff, I guess, but that's understandable considering it was all flat packed. So I'm guessing, I'm not seeing any visible hinges with this bed, but I'm guessing this laid flat with this dome and it pulled upwards. And I love this thing. There's a little Dalek. It moves. I think. There we are. I love it. I unironically want this in my house. A little Dalek sitting on top of my shelf, moving. But there we are. That is the base tour. So let's go downstairs and meet up with Jebediah Cunnan and Bob Cunnan. I'm going to remain in live commentary. You know, we've started this madness. Why not continue? There we are. Oh, it's Jeb. Can I blast him with the? I can't blast him with the fire extinguisher. That's a shame. But there we are. That is the tour of the base. So, let's do a quick save. A proper quick save, actually. And, oh my goodness, we haven't done the most important thing. Hang on. Hang on, guys. I'm really sorry. I just completely forgot this. This, guys, is not the logistics module. Oh. What have I done? I think I pressed board seat by accident. So this, guys, is not the logistics module. It's the lab module. Thank you. Squeaky Dinosaur has returned. Very spooky. We've got to go on EVA to plant our flag. And I think I forgot to... Yeah, I've got the UK Space Agency flag. I forgot to change the flag from that to my Lowne Aerospace one. But regardless, we can plant our flag anyway. There we are. UK Space Agency. Britannia rule the space. Now, Bob is a scientist. This worked out pretty well. We have some exterior... Oh, before we do this, we should probably extend the communications tower. There we are. Just going to set our target angle to 0. I should have automated this, really, but Kind of liked the idea of just doing it manually. Then we're going to extend this. Extend these as well. And I like this dish because, although this doesn't do anything in Kerbal Space Program, we can, if we wanted to, angle it and rotate it. So there we are. That's, well, there you go. That's it. But I think that looks kind of neat. Anyway, back to Bob Kerman, who's on EVA right now. There we are. We're going to do some science experiments. I stuck one of the covers I used for the hatches. I put some science modules on here. I couldn't find an elegant way to put the Science Junior on board. But, you know, we've got these other ones. So we can observe the mystery goo. Run an analysis. And seismic data. There we go. We can keep that. The Gravioli experiment as well. We can run. Temperature gauge. Whoop. This is not going... This is why I don't normally do live commentaries, guys, because I'm actually not that very good at this game, as it turns out. You know? Here we go. We're going to log the temperature there. Keep that. Still getting used to this new UI theme. There we are. And keep that. And did I take the data from the mystery goo? Collect data. Remove data. Hooray. Now, last time I did a mission like this, I forgot to transfer the science to my return module. So although the canon of this is that Bob Kern brought this back on board the lab, I'm actually just going to quickly store the data on here. There we go. And we can get back on board the space base, the surface base. There we are. Oh, that's another thing I miss about Kerbal Space Program 2. Just the transfer of science was much more, like, easy. But don't want to spend too much time reminiscing about all that lost potential. Still very sad. Oh my gosh, Bob, come and get on board. What are you doing? Stop messing around. Up. Up. Yep. Grab. Board. Oh, so I'm guessing this airlock is just always open because I definitely closed that behind me, didn't I? Well, Bob can sit in the lab and do some science with his fire extinguisher and his squeaky dinosaur. Not quite sure what experiment has been done there. But now let's just run time warp for a bit. There you go. How long has that been? 346 days into this mission. Should we make it a round year? Oh, I overshot by 163 days. I'm guessing Boeing is in charge of this mission. But tis. So let's now unbuckle the crew. As you can see, they've not moved a centimetre from their positions. Now it's been a year of operations. We've grabbed lots of valuable data. So we can get our Kerbals onto the return vehicle. It's going to take a little while to do this. I'm going to just do a little clock. Oh, no, I'm going to do a star wipe. Whoosh. So with the Kerbals on board the return vehicle, I'm just going to put the base into power saving mode. As in, I'm just going to turn the lights off. And then we can get ready to launch. We're going to fold in the solar panels just for safety's sake. And, retract the ladders just for perfectionist's sake. And then we're going to just take off. As you can see, I've decided to just carry on. Let's turn SAS on. Oh, it's the second time I've done that in this mission. So here we are returning to Mun orbit. We're going to set our nav ball to orbit. Then we're going to watch our apoapsis height with that to get to, let's say, 20k. Sounds like a good, reasonable height, right? We can just initiate some time warp. Just speed that process up. There we are, 20k, perfect on the dot. Let's do a quick save and perform our circularization. Do you guys like the live commentary to finish off the video? I think it just spares you from the risk of me going on some massive emotional tangent about, shopping for appliances and things like that, with washing machines arriving and fridges breaking down. Ironic that I'm actually now talking about that, so it hasn't avoided that line of conversation topic, but, what can I say? Let's do our circularizer on the Mun. We have 760 meters per second remaining, which is perfect to get home to Kerbin. So, let us perform our maneuver. There we are, going to do that. Do a bit of this. I realise I'm not really explaining what I'm doing, but I'm just basically making maneuver node as we go backwards along the Mun's orbital line, such that we get a nice low perigee around Kerbin. What does that say? 23 kilometers. That's definitely going to ensure a safe re-entry. Let's ensure we have our solar panels deployed as well, so we don't run out of electricity. Would be V sad if we did. And then we get a time warp to our to the maneuver that we just plotted. So we are. I'm very impatient when it comes to I'm very impatient. I'm always overshooting maneuvers, but it's fine. And there we are. Boom. Oh, no, not quite. There we go. Close enough. Sweet. And then where's our apogee? Oh, it's very low. Okay, so we're coming in very, very fast. But it's okay. We've got a very, very powerful ablative heat shield, so we should survive nonetheless. And if we don't, I'll have to do some creative editing. Well, let's do a quick save, and then you can just reload from there. I'll do some creative editing to make it look like I didn't mess this up on the first attempt. So we're going to do some danger staging because, you know, everyone loves a little bit of excitement there. So point retrograde, and in the process we'll detach. And we can get a little fireworks show happening. Oh, I forgot I had a I've got better time warp installed, and I had a fast physics on, so 4 times physics time warp is actually 20 times physics time warp for me. So let's put that into standard physics mode, and then we can... Yeah, there we are. And our ablative heat shield, they're so powerful. We've barely used any of it, despite the fact we were coming in so fast. And we can descend down through the beautiful stock volumetric clouds, courtesy of BlackRack there. We've also obviously got deferred rendering installed as well, which makes the game look extra beautiful. Oh, I forgot to deploy the parachute! I just realised! Oh no! I'm now going to do some creative edits. So here we are, coming down under parachute power. What biome are we in? We're over the Kerbal Highlands. Coming down for a nice, safe touchdown. Our first attempt at doing so. Oh, I say safe. There was a little bit of an explosion just there. And there we are, safely touched down. Yep. Sometimes parallax sort of glitches out and the textures don't load, but just going to the map screen and then returning fixes it. So there we are. Touchdown in the nice, lush, long grass after a year and 151 days in space. The majority of that time being aboard the Mun surface base, of course. So hopefully this gives us plenty of data when it comes to designing our big Minma surface base. Will that be next week? No, I'm thinking about doing another mission next week, but maybe the week after, eh? Who knows? What I do know is that Incogni sponsored this video. Thank you so much to them for doing so. Check that link below, guys. And of course, big thanks to my Patreon supporters and my YouTube channel members who help support what I do here, make all this content possible. So big thank you to all the names on the left there. Very, very sincerely. And of course, thank you to you for watching this video, making it all the way in this far. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like and of course subscribe, ring the bell, all that good shebang, leave a comment or something about your favorite brand of favorite